Yeah, it's been a while.
I know, it's been a long time.
It's been, I think the last time I would have seen you guys was March 2019.
That seems a long time ago.
It really does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think that would have been the Louisiana gig. With,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to connect my headphones.
Yeah, how have you guys been? How have you been finding, like, obviously the lockdowns?
It's a mixed bag, isn't it? I mean, there's some things about it that are quite rewarding in a way, slowing down and all that, but there's some things about it that I find really, really hard. Yeah.
I think it's the same with me. Like when I'm actually kind of calling you guys from my parents' flat because of like when they announced the second. Let's go and admit Tom. Here comes Tom. Hopefully he comes in. Hey Tom. How you doing, Tom? You hear us? Yeah. So basically, I
just sort out my audio situation here.
There's always someone.
Tom likes to listen to Madonna while doing Zoom calls.
Well, hey. Madonna, if you're going to play pop artist, Madonna's not exactly the worst that you could play.
No, not by a long shot.
You know, speaking of like, so I know I sometimes get really obsessed with like kind of really weird and random pop songs. Like I had a phase where, because I had a friend of mine who produced Daphne and Celeste's comeback record.
Really?
Yeah.
What was their comeback record?
Daphne and Celeste Save the World.
Fair.
It's absolutely bonkers. It's my friend. Well, who's my friend Max Ben Wilshaw. He's like kind of. He used to be known as the name kind of Max Tundra, and who's like on Domino Records for quite a while.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds familiar.
He's like one of those artists who was like too weird for the record label because of like he was too pop to be prog and too prog to be pop, and so he fell into this weird grey area.
But not too prog for Daphne and Celeste.
Yeah, basically, he wrote them saying, "Hey, do you fancy having me write you a comeback single?" And then that went down really well, so they decided a few years later to write a full comeback record.
Wow.
And yeah, I got completely obsessed by that album. And it is like, because basically it's a Max Tundra record, but the singers happen to be Daphne and Celeste.
That's pretty cool.
They were a really curious group, Daphne.
Sorry, I'm really late.
Hey, no worries, man. We've only just started anyway, to be honest. You haven't missed out much. You just only heard about me like talking about my obsession with the last Daphne and Celeste record.
Yeah, you got onto that real quick.
The big subject's out of the way first.
I know. It's like, girl was all say hello, so there, how are you? So out of the way really quickly. Let's go to the important stuff. Daphne and Celeste, come on. It's the fact that the album was called like Daphne and Celeste Save the World.
It sounds like a stoner film, doesn't it? It's always like saves the world. It's like two stoners save the world.
I remember like kind of because they did like a really short tour to promote it. So they played. I remember going up to London to the Tufnell Park Dome, not the Dome. Was it the Boston Rooms underneath it? So they were playing in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was like, right, okay, my 17, 18-year-old self would probably be kicking me now for admittedly doing this. But I'm really, really excited about going to see Daphne and Celeste.
in that small little venue, it's like a 200 capacity venue or something.
Yeah, I know, it was tiny. But they played Rough Trade to about, in Bristol, to about maybe 50, 60 people. And they had like, they had a whole thing with party balloons. And so they're doing like, what do you call it when just words to escape me? But when they're doing like stuff where they're bending like the balloons.
Yeah, like I don't know what that's called.
Yeah, what is that called?
Balloon animals.
Yeah, balloon animals. Yeah.
Balloon animals.
Rough Trade. They did this. They made this. One of them made this huge like balloon poppy, which I ended up like kind of because it was the usual thing of me going like, oh, I'm going to do 2 shows in one night sort of thing. So they were on really early, so it's like I ran over to see Sunflower Beam. I had this huge inflatable flower that I was fucking people in the head with. This balloon flower. It was like, come on, Sunflower.
That's amazing.
That's a perfect place. But yeah, how have you guys been kind of coping with the whole? This already, and
I helped some friends move house yesterday, and it was probably the best day out I've had in about 6 months. It was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm really lucky because I've moved in with my parents down in Plymouth, and because I was living very much on my own in Bristol. It's like the first lockdown was okay, but then like stuff like this going on quite regularly, and there's also the fact that it was like in the summer, so it felt all right. It was nice to feel like we can get through this. But then when they announced the second one in November, it was like, no, I'm going to move down to my parents.
Yeah.
And make sure I've got people around me. Also because of they've got also having the family dog as well.
Oh.
So it's like kind of every single day. It's like, right, okay, we've got to get out. We've got to kind of obviously take the dog for a walk. That means even like when I get really anxious, like I was having quite bad anxiety earlier today. It's like, right, okay, we've got to go outside and we've got to spend some time outside. No matter what the weather is.
Yeah,
I get a lot of. I walk my dog at about 8:30 every morning, and I get loads out of it. He's, it's really good for you.
But it's good because it also gives you like kind of like a sense of routine as well, isn't it? Like, right, okay, you've got to get motivated, and it's like sometimes, and I think that's one of the main things which I've liked is actually having that kind of almost sense of doing things regularly.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, you want to make your own routine. If you don't have one, you have to just create one.
And also the thing that it's so easy to get stuck into like kind of into like phases where it's like kind of because of not having a particular aim. And actually, I think that the most important thing if you're going to get through stuff like this is going, right, okay, I've got to have a goal like every single day.
Yeah.
I think a dog is quite cool as well because there's a lot to a dog that you don't know on the surface. It's like they're like a person. It takes you get to know them and they get to know you. And like sometimes we go for a walk and we'll look at each other or I'll say something, he'll react in a way that's like he definitely knows me really well.
So same with like with Rosie, who's our family dog, and like there'd be some days when I'd be like for my parents where I'd be like really anxious on my on my own, and she'd come up to me and go, right, you're going to pay attention to me. You've had enough attention on yourself. You're going to pay attention to me now. So I'm lovable. I'm kind of like, okay, it's like, right, you're coming out.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah. It's a good excuse to interact with other people. I know like all the local dog walkers now.
Yeah, well, it's also like different. I reckon that also in Plymouth, I think the dog walking community's grown substantially. Really, I think pretty much everyone. It's like pretty much most people I know have dogs now, or have got dogs because of the whole lockdown sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. Do you have much? Do you have like a big social network in Plymouth as opposed to Bristol? I mean, because that's a big thing for.
Yeah.
I think for all of us has been being able to occasionally see other people outside, go meet up with someone. It really kind of recharges your batteries.
I mean, I've got a few people. I mean, obviously I've got my mum and dad who live in this flat, but then I've also got my sister who literally lives down like 2 minutes down the road.
Okay.
So I get to see like my niece and nephew quite a bit because we're part of the same care bubble. But I mean, like, I don't really have a huge kind of like social group which I meet up with sort of thing. I'm just like one of those kind of variants who just goes, right, if I see you, I see you. If I don't, then then like kind of not to worry too much, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those like kind of people who really struggles with making plans sometimes.
Yeah, well,
that
I know
surprises me
feels,
with
Yeah.
that surprises me with how good you are at going to gigs.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, to be honest, that's a priority. That's a driving force. Like, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, even though because I tend to find that actually, you know, with shows, is that they were like kind of like structured socializing.
Mhm.
So it'd be like, right, okay, turn up to the gig, you know, like, or like if I didn't have a ticket, turning up really early, sort of thing. Especially places like the Louisiana, it'd be like, right, I know that the doors would be 7:30. The first act's usually 8 o'clock. Headline is like 9 something.
Yeah.
And it was also like as if it was a way of like kind of being in rooms when I could be around people.
I
sort
can
of
really
thing.
relate to that actually. I've never thought about it like that, but shows are a really good thing if you do have any kind of anxiety around socializing, because there's an end time. Like there's a structured time when you know you can go home, or there's a structured time where you can leave if you want to. It's not just like a never-ending sort of stretch. It's like quite a defined thing, and that I find that really helpful as well, actually.
Yeah, but the thing
There's also a lot of.
I used to go to gigs on my own when I was younger. If it was a band that I liked and no one else did, I'd go on my own, because it's cool as well because the focus is on something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like it's been, you know, it's a bit like even say going to like a football match, for instance, where you're going for a specific reason. You know that everyone's there to watch the artists who are performing, and it's like I'd find myself like gradually kind of talking to one or two people, but then I'd recognise their faces. So I'd be like, "Oh, hello! I recognise you from this last show." And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like how I made friends, really. Would be just like talking to random people. Sometimes people who I mistook for other people.
It's an icebreaker.
Yeah, that's great.
It's great. So I swear that I kind of knew them, and then like I just randomly talked to them for ages.
It's less embarrassing when it's a really loud room, because it's covering up a lot of it, so it's fine.
At first, I did pretty much all the talking in between the bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it'd be like kind of, but then like, I was wondering also like, for you guys, you know, how would this, you know, affect you guys as band in terms of like things like where you like kind of working up to an album release sort of thing.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, the album is the album coming out? It's coming out, isn't it? Are we allowed to say that? I don't know what we're allowed to say and what we're not allowed to say.
We might have an album that's about to come out, but we also might not. Safe to say it's one of those two.
Yeah.
It might be this year. It might not be this year.
I definitely need some more things to kind of look forward to at the moment.
Oh, well, if that... Sorry, go on.
Sorry, but I don't know how you found it with like kind of doing like live stream pre-recorded performances.
We only did one, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we did that. Yeah. We did that sort of quite at the start of lockdown, and we did feel like it was kind of, it's not really sort of thing we're probably very good at, but we did enjoy doing it because we were just so sort of by that point we were just like,
we were looking for things
to do it a lot, you know. So.
We enjoyed it so much we didn't do another one.
Yeah, but it was sort of a creative thing more. Like there was a point to doing it. It was like we were trying to make a recording on the 4-track when we couldn't be in the same place. So it was almost like we were more concerned with that than making a film. Really, it was kind of like, it's a bit like the gig thing. It's like there was a structure to it. There was something to concentrate on beyond just, you know, making a film. It was like we were actually trying to make a recording in quite a complicated way, but that was really fun. So
it wasn't just us against the internet, which seemed like loads of live streams were. Like trying to like.
yeah. So it felt. I think of it more like it was just like a little experimental thing that we made a film of.
Yeah, I agree.
I saw that because it was a Sea Change Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like it's I mean, I could say this because I know the guys relatively well. It's an absolutely wonderful festival to play.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we were really sad to miss out on that, actually.
I know.
Yeah.
I was very good. I couldn't make it for the past couple of years because of well, partly because they changed the weekends. So they changed it to the bank holiday weekend in May, which is like really annoying because that's like clashes with like Dot Dot and with Primavera Sound.
Oh, right.
Sort
Oh,
of thing.
God, yeah.
Which for me is like that was the biggest kick in the teeth, I think. Not probably going to like Primavera and then like kind of going, wow, okay, seeing all these, I guess all the things that we've had planned, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
well, I think some of the things you're kind of you've been tapping into so far, they do all kind of revolve around this idea of like routine, and obviously this the whole certainty thing. The idea of going to a show and knowing what to expect. That's a huge part of our lives when we're on tour.
Yeah.
When bands are on tour, there's this huge you know, there's so much happening all the time, but you take a lot of certainty, like the certain things are going to happen every day, that you're going to go to this random place and that a lot of random things are going to be different, but it's all going to stick to the same routine, and you're going to play the show at a certain time, you're going to do sound check at a certain time, you're going to have dinner at a certain time, and there's something really comforting in that. And I think with the projects that you kind of take on now that you don't have any of that routine, you're just almost like trying to create just something that you can kind of stick to, and you know what the outcome is, hopefully get you what you're aiming for with that, and that you kind of take a little bit of kind of distraction and comfort from just kind of the process of getting it done. Almost the outcome sometimes doesn't really matter. It's just a case of you know, giving yourself something really enjoyable to do.
Yeah,
and that's been a nice that we've been able to kind of combine those things with a positive outcome that can be used in some way.
I think that's
been nice.
I think that's the thing, is it is like kind of, I think I touched on this like on the other day with someone else, where it's like kind of like looking for the positives and looking how to be, you know, like constructive project sort of thing, really. And it's like, and it is also like kind of, it's easy because it is, as I said, probably overly easy to get lost in the ether, but then it's like, you know, to kind of like touching upon inspiration, really. I think. I mean, I found myself watching Eddie Izzard doing she's been doing like live streams every day whilst running marathons.
Oh my god!
Really?
Yeah. She's running 31 marathons this month.
He's crazy, man.
Yeah, she is. She's
doing, sorry. Yeah, beg pardon.
No, it's an easy mistake to make, though, to be honest. But it's like, but she's done. I think me and my mum worked out by the end of this month she would run like 760 miles, and then then doing a stand-up show every evening.
How?
I'm a bit worried.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah,
that's gonna hurt a lot. That's gonna take a lot of wear and tear. I mean, I can run for about an hour without collapsing.
Tearing.
Yeah,
tearing.
I can run for like 10 seconds, and then I'm like done.
I think about 5 seconds.
That's gonna be about 4 hours, isn't it? Roughly about 4 hours.
Well, no, he's doing like, I think that he's doing them at his own pace, but he's still like kind of on the treadmill.
Has anyone actually seen them do it? No.
I remember when she did them before though, and like every night she'd just be like in an ice bath, like just popping blisters all night.
Yeah, I remember the blisters.
It looks crazy.
Yeah, but then also what she's also doing is that she's having Facebook conversations at the same time, like having FaceTime conversations with like different comedians and athletes and like people from like kind of different charities from all around the world.
Wow.
Wow,
Have they broken a record yet? They must be on the verge of breaking a record. Some kind of, yeah.
I think.
No, those Superman.
Yeah.
You know, those Superman marathons, they're insane.
What are they?
It's something like you run for 100 miles or like 700 miles or some stupid shit like that.
700 miles.
You run for the rest of your life.
You just run. You just run.
I think after about 20 minutes, I'll probably end up crawling.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've run 10K, like without doing any training.
That's pretty good.
Really?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I
think
can't do any of this.
Maximum.
I know. Neither can I. Well, the thing is that I was with like Team Brisfest or like kind of like Bristol Festival sort of thing, like many moons ago, and literally I did no training. Turned up with the shirt, and I had like black jeans and a pair of clodhoppers, you know, and
Nice.
basically I think I managed to do 10K in about just under an hour.
Wow.
Or just
Got in a
over
car,
an hour.
didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much.
Cheers, Drive.
Halfway through. You could see the start of look at other people's faces when I got off the motorbike.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, yeah, haven't been doing that this lockdown. That's for sure.
Wow.
I don't
Yeah.
think anyone could be doing 31 marathons, to be honest. I'm not exactly expecting that from anyone.
No.
I mean,
I remember Eddie Izzard did a really famous sketch in the 90s that one of my favourite sketches ever was the canteen on the Death Star. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
That is such a classic.
uh,
I always feel like Eddie Izzard always had that kind of comedy that it wasn't obviously a joke. It was kind of just so weird, so surreal.
but it was also like as if there was that sort of thing where, because he comes from the street theatre background, it was like really playful. And I remember like kind of like being a teenager going, oh, I'm a slightly outsider kind of person, and watching him going, wow, this is someone to really look up to, sort of thing.
Definitely.
Because the thing is, because he pretty much he'll like approach his like kind of his stand up by basically having a vague sketch of one joke, and then the rest of it's just like all him improvising.
Right.
But the fact that he's able to do it in like multiple different languages as well.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh,
like
yeah. Forgot that.
like English,
amazing.
French, Spanish, Hebrew. He's learned because he's born
Russian?
with England. Yeah,
I seem to remember Russians in there.
I think so. Yeah,
Oh my God.
but he does like actually kind of comedy shows in French and German.
Amazing.
It's
That's,
like
yeah, that's incredible.
I think he's just like got one of those brains, just like a continuous sponge.
Mm.
So
I mean, I can play the guitar in German.
Well, hey! Is that the same as playing the guitar in English? Or is it different?
Not so good. Not so good.
Was it lost in translation?
Slang.
Yeah, I was going to like kind of ask you guys actually, because there's three things which I find really fascinating, which like, you know, how do you approach like kind of songwriting? Is it very much like kind of, do you write your parts individually, or do you like kind of jam out ideas sort of thing?
We tend to sort of it's actually that's become really apparent in the lockdown, I think, because we don't tend to get anything done if we're not all together. So I think everyone's thinking about things and generating ideas, but most of our songwriting practice happens when we're all in the same room together, and we try and record a lot of what we do. If we're just jamming or we're just playing around with something, we'll try and record it just on a phone. And I think a lot of the process happens listening back to those recordings, picking out the bits that we think are really good, and kind of there's a lot of self-evaluation that happens in that part where you're just kind of thinking like, oh, what these guys are doing here is really good, and maybe I could improve my thing.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Is that fair?
Yeah.
I think so.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
It's kind of always been like that. It kind of just seems to work quite well. We kind of write quite quickly in that way as well, and it's quite nice. It kind of steps you away from. I said this before, where normally when you're writing, you can kind of get quite involved in what you're playing and how fun it is to play. But when the writing process comes down to listening back to it, you kind of do see it from an outsider's perspective, and if it actually sounds good, rather than this big slap bass part is well fun. Otherwise,
it's quite hard to perform and evaluate what you're performing in real time. That sounds a bit stupid, but
no, but it's so true. There's been so many moments where I don't even remember that section from a rehearsal because it just didn't sound that great at the time, and then you listen back a few days later and you're like, that's great. Yeah,
you'll do something throwaway in the rehearsal, and almost like sometimes it'll be in the build up to a bit that you think's going to be great. And you're like not really thinking about what you're doing, you're just trying to get to the bit where you're like, I'm going to do something really cool now, and the build up bit turns out to be the bit that's good.
That's so true.
Things that happened recently that were like, we've done this in the past, like when we came back from touring and we started writing the album, and we went to that place in Hackney, do you remember? And we just started writing really quickly. After we came back from recording this album, which might not exist, of course, we went into 4AD, didn't we? And we just like jammed a bunch of ideas, like
in the basement.
In the basement, like 15 ideas in about a couple of hours, and we weren't even really thinking about it. I remember thinking really distinctly at the time, like none of this is any good. But I was just like, I'm just glad to be playing the guitar again. And then we listened back to it, and it's like they were all good. Like it was really, really weird how that happened.
Yeah, I think definitely when it comes to making things, almost anything, you've got no idea if what you're doing is any good, and you do have to give it some space and look at it or listen to it later.
So
I've never found that not to be true.
And it's I think it is good to hear things, especially with fresh ears.
Yeah.
And like actually kind of like, because it's so easy to like criticize yourself, whereas like I think that actually once you take that kind of critical side away from it, then you probably hear what other people hear.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a bit the same as painting in some ways,
Yeah.
Because you need to show somebody something and go like, right, okay, I don't think this necessarily that good, but then someone else can see something from a different point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always that thing where you want to like the bit that was the hardest bit to do. But often that's not actually the best bit, and you have to sort of wrestle with your ego a bit to let go of stuff that you worked really hard on.
Absolutely.
And be honest with yourself that it doesn't work, and something that you did by accident or something that someone else suggested is actually better. That's a hard thing. Like that takes a lot of.
It's difficult because I think that because like it's also like kind of like trying to figure out like constructive criticism sort of thing. Because of like I don't like entirely criticizing people, because like I tend to see that, especially when it's something like like people like young artists sort of thing, I tend to go like, hey, if you're getting something out of it, that's the most important thing. Than necessarily what I always think of it. What I think of it is secondary. And if it's doing something for you, then that's the most important thing.
I think that's true, because people come around. That's the thing. You can often do something and sometimes the response is, I don't really get it. But if you know that you've done something worthwhile and you've really got that conviction, people do eventually go, I actually get it now. Sometimes it just takes people a while, to kind of get on your page, and it's worth persisting, because that can really happen.
Yeah, I mean, like I also find that like in the like if I'm going to see like obviously like going back to doing live shows again, like if I'm going to see a specific artist, then I'll always check out who the support act is, which is how I came across you guys, because of you guys were supporting Bodega in Cardiff.
Yeah.
Of course.
I remember like in the doing the usual kind of right, going to give these guys like see what other like find online about you guys, which was next to nothing at the time, apart from one video. About 30 seconds of it.
Nothing's changed, Jeff. Nothing's changed.
But that's good, because partly keep the mystery. But I remember like kind of like listening to. I think I listened to about 30 seconds of Magic of Megan, and then just went, "Yeah, this is going to be worth checking out. This is either going to go one of two ways. I'm either going to really, really love this band, or I'm going to like kind of be a bit like kind of like bemused sort of thing."
And here we are.
Right. Still totally bemused.
You know what I mean, though? 'Cause, like, and I think it is like kind of. I think it's like kind of. 'Cause I remember kind of going to that show with some of my older Bristol gig friends, and yeah, we were just like, yeah, we absolutely love this because of it. It made us giggle a little bit. There was like kind of some very clever stuff, and I think that it's also like it's probably really hard to be like kind of quite different these days. I think at the time when I first heard you, you came up with something which was fairly like original sounding to me.
It's I do get asked a lot about, in terms of the vocals, I do get asked a lot about my approach, which I think is weird. It's like, it's not that crazy. Like,
No,
like I often get asked like, so why do you do that? Why do you deliver the vocals in the way that you do? It's like, it's not, I feel like it's not that deep. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, that's just how I do it. and it's always surprising to me how much people are sort of, I don't know what the word would be, how much people are sometimes a bit distracted by it, or because it's kind of like, I've not invented anything, you know. It's yeah, sometimes I wonder about that, but I mean, it's not done us any harm.
Yeah,
it's also it's a memorable thing, isn't it? In some ways, but yeah, it's funny. It's funny.
I've definitely heard like a theme of that kind of that you know, that's kind of style of like kind of vocal approach has definitely been, you know, a lot more kind of like to the forefront in the past kind of couple of years.
Yeah.
There's like even some of the stuff we've just signed to Fire Records, like Gary and Diana, they do very much that sort of. It's a very similar style, and I was just like wondering if it's like if it was like something which was originally deliberate, or whether it's just something that you just felt suited you.
I think the latter, probably. I think it was just a way into doing vocals, you know.
Yeah.
Like it feels accessible to just talk, right? Like,
yeah.
If you like talking and you're kind of, you feel comfortable in that mode, it's kind of, it was sort of meant to just be a way in, really, but then it felt like it actually had a lot of scope to be playful and creative doing it, so I sort of stuck with it, you know. I think, but at the same time also, it's like there's something about it that feels like I feel like I'm being myself when I'm performing, and that was important too. I didn't want to get lost in a persona, or it felt like the most natural thing, and that and the easiest route to being myself.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing which comes across in the songs, because it does feel like if we're in a weird way kind of like listening into like personalized diary entries. I don't know if that's how you, if that's like what your thoughts are, sort of thing. That's kind of how it feels to me.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess like a lot of lyrics are that, aren't they? You know, because it's people writing from their own brain, so it's going to pick up some kind of sort of diary sort of tropes, isn't it? You know, it's talking from the top of your head a lot of the time, and yeah, I guess it does have that kind of aspect to it. I think also it's just wanting to be trying to be a bit vulnerable with it as well, because I think that's always compelling, you know, to see somebody laying something bare, and in a way there's things I do protect that as well. You know, I don't, sometimes the sort of the flatness can sometimes be a way of like talking about personal things but keeping some of it back as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just total exposure, which is a bit frightening. It's kind of, yeah, there's things about it that are tempered to sort of just make it as easy for me to express myself as possible in this medium. You know, and the end result is what you hear, you know. So it's like, yeah,
like, I mean, like it kind of feels like as if it is like a very fine balancing act about how much do you wish to kind of like almost have to create an alter ego sort of thing. Like, so it's a variation of yourself, and it may not be your full self.
yeah,
obviously, you know, like we've all got personal lives and we've all got personal stuff, which maybe not everyone we feel needs to know about, sort of thing.
yeah. It's kind of like, yeah, you sort of pick a side of yourself to go with, in a way.
Calmness also works where you can, when you're reading like a YouTube comment or something that someone else has written, it blurs into, you can't work out if it's what you're saying or what someone else has written, because it's such a level, which is what I quite enjoy about it.
Yeah, like it's different voices and it sort of puts them all through the wash. You know, it's like it's different yeah, exactly that, different voices, and having that kind of quite controlled sort of delivery somehow feels like it ties the room together.
Especially when you can get so easily kind of lost in rocking out, sort of thing.
What are you saying, Jeff? What are you saying? It's a skill.
It definitely is a skill that I'm incapable of, I think.
I think it is a skill, but I think it's actually sometimes more skill than actually being able to like deliver lines with such focus.
I disagree.
Of course it would. Come on. It's like, because I know for me, so I have a terrible memory for things which I write. So I used to like kind of have like an alternative rap act where I used to have to make up everything on the spot.
Oh my goodness!
Because of like my memory for exactly all my words would be terrible. I knew the stories I would be telling, but I was wondering, do you ever find yourself getting lost within like the words of the songs that you guys have written?
Like trying to remember them?
Yeah. Or like having like bits where you freak out and go like, right, okay, I've got to make something up on the spot quickly.
I mean, I've never played a gig without the words there. My ambition is to be able to do it without them. I think I must know the songs. Like I must, you know, we've performed them a lot. I must know them, but there's still something about having the words there that I think if they aren't, it's a bit of a security blanket for performing in a way. Like it, and also it's a ritual to put all your stuff out. And I think doing that, setting up the thing, putting the words there, helps me to arrive at a point where I feel like I can give a performance that's going to be interesting or worth people watching. And I think but yeah, I would like to try and do it without them.
I think sometimes you still need your kind of like your comfort zone, because if it's like
totally
routine, because then you know that because I think that everyone has a routine and a way of warming up.
Yeah.
Whether it's like kind of like the rest of the band, whether it's like kind of stretches, whether it's like kind of you've all probably got your own different ways of like kind of getting in the zone ready to perform, sort of thing. You know, so whether it's like sometimes you have to probably lock yourself on your own for a bit or something like that. So I know many artists have to, you know, they'll psychologically they'll have to like kind of build themselves up before going on the stage.
That stuff's really important. Yeah, I would say, Flo, with your words that you have when you're performing, I would often say I think the words are almost, you could probably survive without the words. It's often the gaps between the words that are also really difficult. Do you know what I mean? That sounds
I know.
Like because a lot of the gaps, but the kind of metering of the words is really technical, because it's not the flow is performing lyrics without a melody.
No.
I'd say that the kind of rhythmic aspect to it as well is not what you would normally expect from a singer.
Yeah.
Which I think makes it really interesting, but it's also that's a technical, like that's a really big requirement to be able to do that.
I think nerves are the thing that get in the way. You know, it's like performing is fine, but then if I add, I guess it's like remembering everything is like one more thing on the plate that's one thing too many.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I can't do it. You know what I mean? It's like I'm just about keeping all the things on the plate, and then it's just like an extra potato, and it's like, no.
Yeah, I it's a bit like kind of like when it's a bit like kind of like driving a car in some ways, I guess, because I can't drive at all because I'm dyspraxic, and I know that I'd probably like kind of I'd be fine if it was just like kind of remembering, you know, like my feet and maybe what my hands are supposed to be doing, but then you've got to think about what everything else is going around. And it's like you go from like in that kind of way of being, you go from somewhere where you feel very safe to somewhere where you feel very, very, very unsafe.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's like kind of learning. I think that it's actually important to like a thing for a lot of people having things like kind of like stagecraft, where they do have like their psychological kind of stuff really.
It's kind of it's comfort, but it also kind of gets you kind of in the zone to perform as well. Kind of like it kind of encourages you to perform better as well as the comfort side of it. Works both ways, I think.
Yeah, it's exciting. Doing those little things is actually exciting. It's like it sets off something in your body. Yeah,
I agree.
Like some people I know, like obviously like Jenny Beth feels that she has to like feel that sometimes that she's like going to run a marathon or run a race before going on stage, because of like she has to be really pumped up for it, sort of thing. And so you meet her in reality, and it's like she's this really calm person, but when she's on stage, she's this big like kind of pumping sort of like person. But I think it's about like kind of how you can deal with splitting in between like the on-stage persona and the off-stage persona.
Yeah.
A lot of the preparation that we would typically be doing for a show really depends on the environment. And a lot of the last time we saw you, that tour back in February last year, so a year ago.
Yeah.
We were kind of playing a real mishmash of venues. So they don't always allow you to prepare, because there might not be a backstage area. There might not be anywhere to get changed into some different clothes, or to brush your hair, which I'm always doing, to do some of the things that you might expect. I think then we would generally play our biggest show in London, and then that show this time around was in at the Village Underground, and there was a really lavish backstage area, and it was almost like we sort of didn't know what to do with ourselves, sort of slightly, and then there comes a period where lots of people are kind of milling around your dressing room in your space, and that's quite a weird thing. There's a lot of different things that kind of feed into that, and it doesn't necessarily always affect the show, but it's something I really miss, actually. That anticipation, the period of anticipation before playing, and almost not knowing what to do with yourself. So you have these kind of rituals and practices that you do to kind of distract yourself, or warm up.
I would say after all the years of doing gigs, and sort of like definitely in a more concerted way with this band, I still don't really know what mine are. I don't know how to control. I still don't know how to control the energy I get from the whole thing, like getting in the van in the morning, driving to the place. I can feel it building all day. I still don't know how to control the energy, and I think like depending on how the gig goes, like it can come out and I can use it, or sometimes it controls me, and and sometimes I can feel like a gig was a disaster and no one else will notice that, but I feel like I couldn't connect with it because the energy was too strong. It was like I couldn't harness it.
Always
it's over, and it's over now. And
always like, it was like kind of an energy in a way which you weren't really expecting. Maybe.
Yeah, I think the one thing I never learned, one thing it's kind of weird to experience in this band is when a large number of people cheer enthusiastically at your music. That's never happened before. I didn't know that would actually release adrenaline into my body. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
once you got over the shock.
It's much easier to deal with.
My main focus is try not to drink too much, because you just sat next to like a fridge full of alcohol and it's free. And you've got loads of time to kill. And if you've got like friends who are at the show, everyone's drinking, and it's like, do you want to drink? Do you want to drink? You're like, I've got so much time to kill and I can't drink.
I think that's kind of what I'm saying as well. Like the energy is so strong sometimes that, like, mixed with idleness, drinking is sometimes the only way you feel like you can control it. But it's actually like sometimes not the best thing to do. Like,
Flo, what was that meme the other day?
Oh yeah, it's like a martial artist doing a double kick, and his legs are like one of the feet is kicking a head that's labeled my talent, and the other one's kicking a head that's labeled my nerves, and basically taking both of them out at the same time. And it's like, that's what drinking does to you on a show. It just wipes out all of your nerves and all your talent.
There could be a third one. There could be like a punch, which is boredom.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, yeah, there could be like a downward
100%. Yeah. So true.
That's also the other thing, is that also like I've noticed, like I've seen a lot more like in the alcohol sometimes brings out other issues, like obviously mental health related sort of stuff, really. Because I think that it's like, it's also like when you're dealing with doing gigs, you're obviously dealing with lots of adrenaline as well.
Yeah.
You know, after the show. Because obviously, like, you know, when you played the Louisiana, going out to like the Mother's Women until about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that was that night. Oh
god. Oh no. Oh man, you were there for that. That was a low point.
I was with you guys, man. I was with you guys.
I'm so sorry you had to witness that.
Oh dear.
You're nowhere near the worst. You're nowhere near the worst. I've seen a lot worse than that.
Oh, thank you.
You know, like, I don't know whether that should be entirely a positive comment, but you know it's quite bad. I mean, I think probably one of the wildest gigs I've ever seen was in the Mother's Ruin, actually. When I think about it.
They do shows there.
Yeah, they do sometimes. It's like kind of, as much as like kind of the Louisiana goes, oh yeah, they're a DIY venue. The Mother's Ruin really is like kind of one of those places where it's proper spit and sawdust. So it's, I mean, I've seen stuff like John had played there quite a few times, and like kind of, there's been, I think the show which I particularly remember, and it's probably one of my favourites ever, was the Monotonics, who are like an Israeli garage rock band who played in there.
Wow.
And they got banned from half the venues which they basically entered into because of their live shows were wild. They basically, their whole attitude was like, right, we're going to not play on the stage, we'll play in the audience, on the audience, we'll play every single corner of the room. Sometimes taking gigs from one room to another room.
To be fair, it sounds good. It doesn't sound as wild as Tom trying to grind one of the staircase rails without a skateboard.
That's true.
Hey, there was a skateboard there, wasn't there?
No.
It does sound dangerous, to be honest with me.
I don't really want the information getting out that I'm highly suggestible when drunk, Lewis. So
I feel like using the word parkour takes it too far.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is though, that this actually banned. I think they were actually banned from Israel, from their own country. So
Wow.
they're on Israel. They were on Israel's, I think, FBI watch list. And also,
Oh my God.
The most random thing is that I mean, like, it was definitely like one of those shows where I didn't know.
The FBI now. Stop talking about
my parents' phone. It's annoying.
Answer it. You should answer that.
No, I don't like answering. I don't like answering random people's phones.
Oh, I'm the same. I don't answer my own phone.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So I really struggle with phone calls. So actually doing stuff like this really helps.
We can.
Oh,
They're going to
really?
leave a message.
Well, it's because I'm like, yeah, they're going to leave a message. Oh, it's fine. Oh, it's something involving Quakers, which is really boring.
Quakers.
Yeah, my parents are active Quakers.
Are they?
Oh, wow.
My mum went to a Quaker school.
Yeah, my parents are like they've been attending Quaker meetings since the 90s.
Oh. Have you been to one?
Yeah, I went to loads, especially when I was like when I was younger, sort of thing, and then like I occasionally go with my parents, you know, kind of now sort of thing. So it's really good sometimes to go and sit in peace.
Yeah, because it's kind of it's largely silent, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember like my parents even renewed their wedding vows in the Quaker Meeting House in Gloucestershire, which is kind of where I grew up. And because I was a stroppy teenager at the time, and like kind of reading Kerrang magazine, and so like I had Kerrang magazine in the Quaker Meeting House, which had Keith Flint on the front cover, and like people who like, oh, Sumner, you know, like for my parents' renewals of the wedding vows. Like, every now and again in the background, I get a flash of like Keith Flint's like smiling face.
That's amazing.
Not very peaceful.
No.
I used to read Kerrang a lot. Is Kerrang still in publication? They still print it?
They still print it. It's not that good. And well, it's not how it used to be. I think the thing is though, that with a lot of like kind of media, things have changed. So I used to remember like Kerrang being like this huge thwacking thing every single week, and it'd be like the albums reviews page would be at least like almost 10 pages long, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it'd be like kind of like they used to have some really interesting features as well. And they'd get like kind of various people to interview each other, and it was just like it just had like that kind of classic kind of rock magazine, but they also did a lot of stuff where they did promote a lot of new artists.
Yeah, I remember. I used to get Rock Sound as well, and Metal Hammer. I used to occasionally get. I remember Rock Sound being quite good, but I mean this is a while ago. Did anyone else used to get that?
Yeah, I think Rock Sound attempted to be a little bit more highbrow, didn't it? Like kind of Kerrang was almost like smash hits, but for metal.
Yeah,
that's why it was so good. It had like stick. You get like stickers and stuff. It was so good.
Free refresher bar.
A curly whirly.
A curly whirly on the front.
Like Rob Flynn from Machine Head. Is it Machine Head he's from? Rob Flynn?
Yeah.
Talking about his hair.
Yeah. What shampoo do you use?
I mean, like the ultimate version of that was there's an American magazine called Revolver, and they had Vinnie Paul, the drummer from Pantera, as like an agony aunt. And it was like,
that's incredible.
I mean, it was awful.
That's
that
great.
Sounds good.
That is good. That's really cool.
I mean, like someone wrote into him about like kind of their alcohol addiction, and his response was simple: drink more beer.
Oh God!
Fantastic advice there.
It was the exact opposite of like exactly what you want from like an agony aunt sort of thing. like kind of it'd be like kind of like the exact opposite kind of responses in some ways to people's personal kind of crises. So from the drummer from Pantera.
Oh man, I like some of those. Some of those creative features can be quite good. Bands interviewing other bands is a bit hit and miss, but can be really good.
Yeah.
Because they do get inside, and they you can relate experiences in an entertaining way.
And also, the thing is, though, the background, especially in like the late 90s, early 2000s, I probably got introduced to loads of bands which would never get in there now, sort of thing. Because of like, it was like a lot more of an open door. It's like, right, okay, so you'd have even stuff, that's how I came across stuff like Fishbone, Trans Am, and like lots of like, they promoted also Asian Dub Foundation and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like, and they were like really, really behind a lot of those guys, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I sometimes go to see bands because they were literally got featured in Kerrang magazine. It's like, right, okay, you got featured, you got mentioned in Kerrang magazine. That must mean you're good.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly what it used to be like. I used to read it on the way to college.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah.
I mean, I say to the Kerrang magazine.
Last year was a great year.
Hey, that was the college kids. Last year was such a long time ago.
Oh God.
What?
It's a weird one.
It does feel like it's been like things have kind of blurred together a bit in a strange way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, not much has changed.
Just the weather.
Yeah.
I think the weather can't make up its mind at the moment.
It's really, it's making it a lot harder.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it's a dull thing to say, but like I realise now like how amazing the weather was in the first lockdown.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
like really good.
It's so grey.
And then like, whereas it's like where I am now, it's like kind of going out earlier. It was like kind of grey, wet, and like we've got a massive storm kind of coming in at the moment. So it's like you're just looking at going, do I want to go outside? No, not really.
No.
Yeah, probably not.
Summertime, I mean, like I must admit, I did spend most of the time inside because I was getting sucked up to get burnt like a crisp. It's like Flambay.
Yeah, I think with any luck this year, this is sort of kind of more optimistic outlook that as the year progresses, the weather will get better, along with the COVID situation, and so as you know, we're kind of allowed outside more as things are kind of starting to look more positive. The weather is going to be getting nicer. By the end of by like the end of summer this year, I don't know if we'll get any gigs, but I think we'll certainly be like feeling a lot more positive about everything.
I think it does also like reflect on like the mood. So also it's about like kind of I say to a lot of people who say look at like obviously with the lockdown during the summer is to utilize the outside spaces.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like just because we can't have shows necessarily inside doesn't mean that we can like, in some towns, close up one maybe or two roads and have something going on outside instead.
Street parties.
And also, and the other thing is to think about it is that because quite often with like some of the venues they've got like kind of age restrictions, and actually I tend to find that some of the best audiences are really all ages. And so if you have something that's outside, then you don't have like the age restriction so much because of the alcohol license and stuff like that.
I remember learning this years ago in a previous band that myself and Nick were in, where when you were playing shows that were like all ages, just having like a group of young like kids at the front, just giving a bit of energy, kind of just filters through the crowd, and it kind of just gets everyone. It kind of gets everyone else going. If everyone's just over like 18 and boring and hates themselves, it kind of takes a bit more time.
Yeah.
Exactly. And actually,
sometimes those shows require like a stimulus. You're right. I don't know if you've been to so many shows, Jeff, but you must have been to a few where this weird phenomenon happens where in between the songs everyone claps and then it just goes completely silent. And it just seems like no one is prepared to kind of just like everyone's a bit afraid to kind of create that atmosphere. It can happen sometimes. It's quite weird. And that's extremely weird when you're on stage.
Yeah.
You play to a crowd like that where you're like, what have we done wrong? What's happening?
Well, like, especially if you're playing to a foreign audience or if you're playing at the, say, like Great Escape at like 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, we've done that.
Yeah, we've done that.
We did do that.
I saw that.
You were there.
Yeah, I know. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, it was a pretty good crowd for 10 a.m. I thought that was great. We had very low expectations.
That was a lot of fun that day, actually. I really enjoyed that day.
That was
Yeah,
really
it
fun.
did. It was a really good show as well. Because the thing is,
The gig 12 hours later was definitely a lot worse.
Really? Let's play
Some little jazz
it was a
bar.
It was a jazz, something jazz club.
Casablancas or something.
Yeah.
And we did a show in the middle of the day at the Walrus,
Yeah.
which was also kind of crazy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The Walrus one.
About 3 or
Yeah.
4 on that day, I think.
It was
Yeah,
a
we couldn't
really low
even-
ceiling in the Walrus.
We couldn't even get into that show. Like we were playing.
Wow.
We could barely get in.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can remember the ball. I mean, those are the kind of places which I kind of really miss now. Actually, it's like kind of being able to go into like very small places and like the Louisiana and stuff like that. But also, like I really miss, like it made me realize, the thing about, kind of like festivals, for instance, is sometimes, especially when you go to like a festival where it's kind of got like sometimes randomly quite a family crowd. It's like sometimes I found myself kind of dancing around and I have little kids running around my legs.
Yeah.
Or with those huge
Warning.
headphones on.
Yeah,
They always wear those giant, like they're working in an airport or something.
yeah.
I love those.
They did depend. I remember, like, I think it was that truck one year where I was watching kind of Wild Nothings, and literally I had to watch my step because I literally had kids running in and out my legs. I had a pair of, like, I think 2-year-old toddlers kind of running around me. It was like
Who's
really,
the-
but I was really having to watch while I was actually stepping.
Which bands do we think have the most child-friendly audience environments?
Oh, that's
Ooh.
interesting. I think actually, probably have to say child-friendly audiences. Well, there's a band called Slay Dougie.
Emu Borgir.
Yeah, Borgir. There's a band called Slay Dougie, who are like they're like a thrash metal outfit, but they're all dressed up as dogs. They're like a dog-themed kind of
That sounds
thrash
amazing.
metal band, and they did a live stream show for.
Tom's got to join them.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna go get his dog costume on. Go get his.
They didn't want me.
They do like they're like kind of grindcore outfits. They were doing it was a charity show for a kid called Angus, and they had it was in a place called Hot Box in Chelmsford, and they were doing like a live stream show. And they had like Angus in this like kind of kids ball like kind of play pit, and so they had like the kind of everyone dressed up as dogs. Like kind of obviously playing the music, and like the 2 singers were occasionally like kind of diving in and out of the ball pit with the kids.
That sounds absolutely mad.
That does sound great. Yeah.
It was brilliant, but it's like that's definitely one of the most kid friendly. Well, actually, randomly, I remember like in the like stuff like going to festivals like Standing Cooling. I remember like the first time going there and seeing. They had an extraordinary lineup the first time I went, and seeing Fucked Up playing to a whole load of 5-year-olds. Fucked Up were great. The whole audience were loving it because, like, and the kids were slightly terrified of Damien because obviously he's a big, kind of bald Canadian guy.
Semi-naked.
Yeah, with blood. He would cut his head open, using one on one of the cans sort of thing. But he was literally kind of running up to all of them because they're all sat on their parents' shoulders and high-fiving every single last one of them. It was effective and, just like kind of going, like, we don't ever get this, we never played to kids before.
Yeah, that's cool. Embrace it.
Yeah. I think that it was also like, one time when I noticed that I got asked to coordinate like an all-day event at the Arnold Feeney in Bristol, and what really made it was the fact that people did turn up with their babies and their dogs and their their fish and everything, and it just made for such a really loving atmosphere.
That's cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't find that.
Flo, do you remember that show we did in the library where
Oh God.
you questioned if you could swear or not?
Well, no,
The panic.
To be fair, like they were so sweet, and those shows were really fun to play.
Yeah.
But I think it was like one of our first. Was it one
This
of our
was the
first shows
Bodega
outside of
tour.
London? It was like quite a big
Yeah.
deal. It was quite. I was quite nervous, and like 10 minutes before we were going to go on, one of the library staff kind of was like, "Oh, is there swearing in your songs?" I was just like, yeah, quite
It's
a
all
lot.
swearing.
Quite a lot. And yeah, they were running around trying to kind of get confirmation whether it was all right for me to swear, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I was really I was panicking a bit, but yeah, in the end we just sort of went for it. It seemed all right. I was definitely looking into the eyes of a 5-year-old for like too much of it, really, with these huge ear defenders on, just looking up at me, this innocent little thing. I was just like, this is terrible.
I think the thing is, I think that I'm not sure if the kids would always get all the references, but I think that they wouldn't necessarily mind that much anyway.
No, I think, yeah, in the end, who knows?
They'd also understand that it's got a context to it.
Yeah, well, I don't like, they're not really angry swears.
No.
I mean, some of them are, but they're not, I don't think you would feel you were being shouted at.
Yeah.
I think that's probably worse, you know? Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I hope they're okay out there.
But it's really weird to like play. I mean, that must be really strange when you play like a library sort of thing.
It's quite weird, yeah.
It was pretty fun. It was nice that there was stuff in there, books.
We also went from playing the same venue in Dalston all the time to playing a library.
Yeah, I think it's a promoter that does those shows up. It tends to be in the north. We did Lancaster and Huddersfield.
Yeah, it's called like Loud in the Library or something.
Yeah, Live in Libraries or something like that. They're really good organisation. They do a lot of work to, you know, kind of have those shows in interesting places. I thought it was really cool, and all the library staff were really great.
They were they looked after so nicely.
I come from a family of librarians, so it was a big tick on the list for me to do something in a library like that. I could take it over. It was really cool to see the enthusiasm with it, and also there are kind of a lot of benefits to doing a show in a space like that where you wouldn't normally, because everyone kind of bends over backwards to kind of make it a really nice event.
Yeah.
And also, you know, we love all the kind of the purposed music venues around the country, but like I was saying before, you know, often they will be really tiny, or like, you know, your kind of dressing room area will be, you know, a toilet, or you know, like there might not be any kind of space for you to just put your bag or anything like that. Not complaining, but you know, it's really nice to you know, be in an environment where you know,
no alcohol.
There's
that was annoying.
Yeah, actually, it was totally rubbish. What am I talking about?
No,
there's no alcohol, but lots of Haribo.
Which that's true.
Actually is the same effect.
Yeah. There was one where our dressing room had like the naughty list of kids who were banned from the library. Do you remember that?
Oh, and adults, and adults who were banned from the library.
Well, hey.
Yeah,
that's so good. And then the next one, the second library we played had so much merch. Do you remember that? They had everything. There's like more merch than kids.
Yorkshire merch.
Yeah, that was great.
And their own merch, just loads of it.
It's that one way of like kind of keeping the libraries open is to have their own merchandise, really. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
definitely.
That was the show where my uncle danced at the front for 75%.
That was incredible.
Well, the crowd was quite still. I mean, it was like broad daylight, and it was 3 p.m. So I think he just felt like he wanted to remedy the situation.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, that felt like a kind of festival atmosphere. That probably because he was wearing like a massive red anorak.
With with a big flag.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so great. It was so great. Was I the only person who knew it was my uncle?
Yes.
So the whole time I was like, I know him.
What was your?
I was like, oh, cool. They
idea.
let anyone in here.
I had a fairly good idea because he looks just like your dad.
Oh yeah, true.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
almost
true.
exactly the same as your dad.
What's your uncle's name again?
That was Uncle Dave.
Uncle Dave. Shout out,
Yeah.
Uncle Dave.
Well, hey,
Yay.
that's
In
good.
Huddersfield.
Big international shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I found like, I think it's really interesting when people sometimes do play in like different venues, because I think that actually sometimes I like the fact that it does feel like more like a special event.
I agree.
Like, I mean, like, I
Definitely.
remember like kind of going to like a load of the skins parties sort of things, and you know, like doing stuff where it'd be like a secret location.
Mm.
Right. Yeah.
I think that, yeah, always going somewhere new or like dressing up always kind of puts like changes the vibe of the night. Like going to like Halloween, like it's a crazy night because people have spent a bit more time getting ready and preparing for the night, and as a result, like have all this pent up energy. I think it's the same when you go to a different location.
I must admit that it's like I saw Foals once because of I saw them, like I've seen them loads of times, but I saw them because of I was being filmed as an extra for Skins.
Oh really?
Yeah, so I was in the secret episode that they did on the online episode that they did for the second series. I was like, they kind of like got me dressed up in this really tight kind of leotard, kind of like, you know, like a strongman costume. So it's potentially a strongman. I was pouring liquid into a bath on top of like a couple of girls who are like in their underwear sort of thing. It's like, you know, like kind of Skins. Yeah, but they end up, you know, having, you know, like a kind of whole Skins party thing in this huge abandoned like sort of church cathedral building.
Was it set in Bristol?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was definitely Bristol. To be honest,
That's
like,
just clicked in my mind.
Well, we were kind of
It's going to
talking
be
about
called
this.
Cat.
There's a lot of buildings being repurposed at the moment. I mean, who knows what the situation is going to be like when live performance is a thing again. There might be a few more places around that you might see a few more unusual shows and stuff. It'd be cool.
I mean, I guess I was lucky in Bristol, as I've been, you know, like post the first lockdown, we had places like the Lanes and the Trinity were starting to do like socially distanced gigs, really, which gave me some of the thrill of going to see live music, but it wasn't quite the same. There was still like kind of, you know, it'd be like kind of me with the same table of kind of gig nerds who came to the Bodega gig in Cardiff sort of thing. And even though it was like really great to see their faces and stuff, it still didn't feel, it's just weird, you know, having to adapt to new normal sort of thing.
Yeah,
I'm quite intrigued by distance shows. I guess because it's like the closest we can possibly maybe get to playing live soon.
Yeah, any kind of show. We did a few months ago. We did a photo shoot where we were rehearsing at the time, and the photographer stuck around for a bit and watched us play, and that's the closest we've been to a show for almost a year now. And it actually felt like a show, just having one person watching us. Yeah,
it really felt different.
I kind of wish I'd warmed up and stuff.
Yeah, it kind of does, like when you have someone else, it does make, even just watching rehearsal, it does like kind of change the atmosphere a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, changes it massively. Yeah, I think it's the same performing to one person, performing to like a big crowd of people. Like you have different experiences, but the kind of feeling of the performance, I almost find it more intimidating playing in front of one person.
Definitely.
There's kind of it's like complete exposure.
Yeah, because it's like if you can't like them, where sometimes, you know, like when you're playing in front of, like, you know, that's the reason why most rock stars find it more nerve-wracking being in small rooms than being in, you know, in the big arenas, because then they can be distant from everyone.
Yeah. It's just more anonymous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, or it depends on how anonymous people choose to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think my hopes for this year, I think, is just like, hopefully I'd just love to be able to be back in like a room with you guys and, you know, kind of whichever kind of artist, and like, in whatever way that means, even if that means sometimes having to do things like with kind of like, I guess like an almost like 3D sort of thing. Can you imagine doing like a virtual reality show?
Yeah, that would be cool.
I'm aiming high. I'm hoping by in like 6 months' time there'll be shows be creeping back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to that too.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for that as well. I'm hoping to be able to actually hug people. I think that's.
Whoa.
I know. Yeah. I know. We hope.
That's permanently cancelled.
Yeah.
This
I'm a massive hugaholic. I'll warn you. I'll warn you that. You know.
Obviously, being musicians, we go to a lot of gigs, but we don't go to half as many gigs as you go to. Like, this has probably affected you like more than it has done for us.
I think the way I tried to create the first lockdown was like, if there's like a diet, I'd basically be as skinny as Kate Moss.
Cold turkey.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is, and it also does make me realise exactly how much I took for granted.
Yeah.
Especially like in a city like Bristol, where we had so many shows going on, and I would be like kind of going like, okay, like this show starts at this time, this show starts at that time, sort of thing. And sometimes I would literally be pegging it half the way across the city to go and make it to like 2 or 3 different things.
Wow.
And actually, you know, like, and having that choice as well.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel that, you know, there's loads of other cities which get really overlooked, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was thinking that just the other day. I thought, like, I was thinking about what it must be like to live somewhere that just doesn't have the same access to like culture that like London or Bristol has, like, and it really just struck me for the first time like what it might be like, you know, the idea that just something is so out of reach. Mad, really, like so used to just having everything really close and quite accessible, really. I really miss it.
I mean, I grew up in the middle of the Cotswolds, you know, so like it'd be like if I wanted to go to a show, I used to have to actually try and persuade my parents to either drive me somewhere, you know, like, or like kind of I sometimes, especially if the gig was in Bristol, I'd use the bargaining chip going, you've got friends in Bristol, haven't you? You know, but it so often be depending on lifts and having to, you know, do the embarrassing thing of like trying to phone up people, which I knew to see if I could stay at places. Sort of thing. I mean, quite often I'd end up, you know, like, especially in my late teens, crashing at the train station.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely slept over a few times.
It was a fun experience. I grew up in kind of rural North Norfolk, and to get to Norwich just to see a show or play a show, and then get back is a logistical nightmare that I have buried, and I have absolutely no interest in revisiting whatsoever. It was crazy just to try and get to see live music, and like the last train would leave at 11 or something like that. And I'd often you'd have to leave halfway through the headline set, just to get home.
And it'd be like, and it's exactly the same living in the Cotswolds sort of thing. But I mean, I remember I think the first time I had to speak rough was actually when I was at Guildford. Actually, you know, at the ACM, because I went to see Son of Farik back in my like kind of rap rock loving days. And it was a freaking amazing show. I mean, like their singer was definitely wild. I mean, he knocked himself unconscious during that gig. like literally kind of like landing head first on the stage and then basically fractured about 7 ribs.
Oh my God, not too early on, I hope.
No, it felt like kind of halfway through the show. I think it was
Oh,
like kind of they're playing the West End Centre in Aldershot.
Oh.
I mean, he ended up pretty much almost ripping off
Aldershot.
half the roof off, sort of thing, because he's like swinging upside down off the roofing, and it's just like kind of like going, okay, this is definitely one of the wilder shows I've been to.
That's cool. Well, I wonder how many live shows they get in Aldershot.
Actually, to be honest, I mean, like with the West End Centre, I think they had quite a few.
That's
They
cool.
definitely
Those,
at the time, they definitely had more than Guildford.
right? Yeah.
You know, because of like I mean, like when I was there, because I was only there for like 1 year, so it's like 2001. So it's before the Boiler Room started up.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
Actually, you know, like you know, that's actually where I ended my OVW tours in the Boiler Room.
That's really, yeah, it's really cool. It's a great venue, that
Oh,
little
I love
place.
it.
It goes to show you that you know, if when did the Boiler Room open up? I don't know if it wasn't there in 2001, but how much of an institution that place has become in Guildford,
Oh, it's massive.
just by being like the one place that actually will have live bands coming through, and it's the right size for that town.
Yeah.
And it's like a charming little place. It's a great stage. It's got the restaurant attached.
I mean, like, yeah, because I remember kind of walking in there being welcomed by Dom as well. And it's
Yeah.
like, right, okay, you know, like kind of like the importance of a lot of independent venues is that you do quite often feel like there's strong communities around them. So like I did like last
Yeah.
year, so like I did like places like the Hebden Bridge Trades Club,
Yeah.
which is a stunning venue.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance to in the future ever play there,
We were meant to be there, weren't we?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
were.
were.
Yeah.
Been cancelled like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
it's
So far.
But it's I mean, like I can vouch it's a wonderful venue. I mean, I remember like kind of walking in there and just like my jaw just hitting the ground, going, "Wow, okay."
Yeah.
Like kind of. Then what else did I do? Did like the Brixton, the Windmill in Brixton.
Mm.
I really loved that place because I saw Anna Calvi playing there, and
Wow.
that
Did
was
you?
yeah, that was jaw dropping.
Mm.
That was like one of those nights where I couldn't sleep properly.
Yeah.
I think I spent most of the week like a kid in a candy shop.
Yeah.
Like, it's like every night I was going somewhere I hadn't been before. So
Yeah,
it's like
that's cool.
like the Lead Mill in Sheffield, they took me on a tour of the historic tour of the building, and I was just like, wow. It's like seeing Jarvis Cocker's original kind of artwork and stuff, and it just like felt like a kid on Gobstoppers.
Oh man, that's great.
So,
That's really cool.
and then but yeah, I ended it with by going to see John at the Boiler Room. And I ended it in classic
Great
style.
band.
Oh, brilliant band! I've got so much time for those guys.
Oh,
But people like them and Frauds and like kind of just because it's a mix of them being like really nice guys to be around, but it's also like
Oh, the Horrible Guys, but a great band.
but you know, so I find that if I get on with people as artists, you know, get on with them as people, I tend to actually appreciate their work a lot more, sort of thing.
yeah, it's always the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I ended their show by stage diving with Dom, with the manager from the Boiler Room.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean,
But there was no crowd.
Yeah, I was running around the country in my waistcoat as well, and like my crop.
Oh, is that your wristband waistcoat?
Yeah.
The amazing waistcoat, yeah.
Mm.
In fact, I've got it down here somewhere actually. I probably should have actually thought about it and put it on and gone like, huh, I'm official.
Officially Jeff.
Yeah.
You've got these ones though. You've got a fair few on the
Yeah, I know.
wrist.
These ones haven't killed my wrist yet, so you wait till a couple of years time. But yeah, because I must admit,
Security at festivals must fucking hate you.
I pull out the right one. I always pull out the right one. But the thing is, I always pull out the right wristband. I always go, it's this one. And I make sure that they see it as well. Yeah, they kind of like they probably would, but I do actually make a point of like kind of like pointing out which
Helping them
planet
out.
it is. Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't want to be too much of a pain in the ass. You know, because I think that I think it's like a thing where I know that some people like try and big me up and stuff, and I'm like, no, I'm a human being. Let's try and talk at human being level.
So sorry, excuse me. One sec. I'm going to go to the loo. I'll be back.
That's fair enough. But yeah, but I mean, because also this year was due to have like there was so much stuff which was due to happen in 2020, which I had to cancel.
Mm. Yeah, you were going to go South by Southwest, weren't you?
I know, yeah. Jesus Christ!
Such a shame.
I was getting ready to completely destroy my body for that one.
Yeah.
Because you've seen me probably at like Great Escape at like kind of, and seen how probably blurry and like limping and destroyed I could probably get from that. Could you imagine South by Southwest would probably be even worse?
Yeah.
I could
It'd be the same
like,
for the barbecue.
In the heat as well, you'd also be burnt.
Yeah. I'd probably be burnt to a crisp. Probably, you know, like kind of end up, you know, like kind of after say something like Glastonbury or Green Man, having been up like 3 or 4 days in a row, not being able to sleep properly, being triple.
Yeah.
But
one day.
I was also due to actually have my own art exhibition as well.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that on your Instagram.
But yeah, I was gonna have like kind of like a whole load of like kind of oil paintings which I've done over the years, sort of thing.
They're looking great. From what I've seen online, they look amazing.
Oh freaking hell! You wait till next week. So there's gonna be potentially some big stuff happening.
Amazing.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Intriguing.
Can we have an exclusive?
Yeah.
Well, you know, like because obviously, like we've got like a kind of like a booking, you know, for the exhibition in June, rebooking in the same place in a place called the Island in Bristol. But we're launching. It's a website that they're launching with my artwork and with, you know, kind of like they're doing like a kind of online preview.
Oh, that's cool.
Sort of thing. So I had to go.
That's good that they can do that.
Yeah. Well, I guess we had to go to. It means I might have to go back to Bristol in a couple of days' time just to do some like supposedly like PR sort of stuff, which I claims work. Sort of things.
Yeah.
Because it's like really weird. Because I found myself also being invited on like university panels and stuff like that. Like,
really?
Been taking part as conferences as part of like to do with like short films which I've made and stuff like that.
That's cool. That's very exciting.
That's pretty amazing.
That's nice. That's some nice news.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting, but also kind of like extremely nerve wracking.
Yeah.
So so that's the reason why I had like kind of a bit of anxiety today was like trying to sort out what I'm supposed to be doing at what time, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, this is really cool, man, because it's I imagine you should expect to do as much of this stuff as you're comfortable with, because you're kind of you're like a figurehead now. You're like an ambassador for live music in the UK, and that's come about because you're one of the most enthusiastic people about live music that we know, and the government is waging a culture war on us at the moment, and we need people to kind of stand up and represent what it is that we're interested in and what we want the state of live music to be in this country.
And I guess it was like kind of what got us out of the recession in the first place, was live music, and was kind of people going to shows and people kind of like buying records from the artists and like that sort of thing, and people rediscovering passion.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think I know it's not directly related, but you going to do this stuff is really cool, and as much of it as you can handle, being out there and kind of being on panels and doing that kind of thing, like it needs people like you.
I heard you on Radio 4.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, you were very good.
Which one was that? Was that the one they did on Saturday morning live?
Okay, it might have been a Saturday actually. It was about music venues in the lockdown.
Yeah, that was the thing Arlo Parks did.
Yeah.
So I might be chatting with her next week, actually.
That's cool.
I'm a very big fan of, I'm a big admirer of her work, actually. It's a bit like getting a bit like okay, what do I actually say to this person? What do I actually say to her? Even though I'm very briefly something in Bristol, but I still get, like a bit flustered.
Yeah.
If you know someone's work really well, it is strange to suddenly have a conversation with them because you sort of don't know where the two meet, like what you know of what they do and what they're actually like, and it could be a bit nerve-wracking moment, can't it?
Well, it's like I still get awestruck by the fact that in Bristol, one of my neighbours is John Parrish.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, he literally lives like a couple of streets from me.
Johnny P.
Yeah, I know. I'm like I still kind of turn into a flustered like kind of teenager, kind of inadvertently in front of him. Yeah, he's really lovely, and I've met him like kind of numerous times, and he always comes and says hello to me.
We can testify as to the delightful nature of Mr. John Parrish.
Yeah,
wonderful,
lovely guy.
Yeah.
Easy to talk to.
Don't play him at table tennis. He's pretty good. He's a bit of a shark, actually.
Total shark.
Yeah, he was playing it down.
Yeah, but I think
he was like, "Oh, well, that old game," and he destroyed us all.
But the thing is like, even though he's like my neighbour, I still get in my head. I get like all the people that he's worked with. I kind of like they turn into like a kid and like a kind of with like too many gobstoppers sort of thing. And I just think of going, he's made this record, this record, this record, this record, this record. Like kind of released this album, played with this artist, and like kind of. It's a bit weird. It's sometimes weird seeing something that you're used to seeing on a big stage, literally in your local Tesco's.
Yeah.
Well, were you guys talking about me while I was away?
Yeah.
Lewis.
Yeah, every band practice we get starstruck by Lewis.
I mean, like, I think the most brilliant and actually, I think, honest moment I had was the first time I met Tim Burgess, or inadvertently nearly met Tim Burgess, because of his partner's in Factory Floor, and he was roadieing for them.
No way.
Was he?
Yeah, and it was just like back in 2011, and I absolutely loved Factory Floor.
And, they're cool.
This was like back when they had Gabe with them, and like so it was the full live 3-piece. I remember properly freaking out, and I used to do this thing where I used to kind of like almost like end up on the ground, like rolling in between people's legs, like a kind of worm sort of thing.
A worm!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch out for the kids.
I used to do that where like. Yeah, I think I used to do that a lot, especially with a band called Fortune Drive. But anyway, I remember like kind of properly freaking out to Factory Floor, and seeing this guy stood in the corner, with a blonde mop, cap on, spectacles, and like kind of grubby overalls sort of thing. And I just noticed the fact that every so often he was looking at me really intently. Kind of like openly kind of staring.
That's really cool.
And
he always seems like such a sweet guy. Sorry.
Yeah, I think he is a really sweet guy. I think he's definitely someone who's taken it upon himself, especially a bit like Eddie Izzard over the lockdown, as to be like a positive force. Like organising the listening and the watching parties sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it was about a few months later that he played a solo show in Bristol, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I met you because of like, I met you, Jeff, because of like I was at the Factory Floor show."
That's so cool.
I was like, "Oh, that's who you were." Okay.
That's cool.
They were quite heavy and psychedelic live, weren't they? Like it was really intense.
They did a lot of shows with their fuck buttons as well.
Oh right,
The whole tour was like kind of them competing who can be louder.
I bet.
Both of them, especially the show I saw them do at the Trinity, it was like thank fuck for earplugs.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember like I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you guys where you've been watching an artist play and you find yourself, especially like an instrumental artist, singing a really random song just because you get.
You mean over the top of it?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I've never done that.
No,
But I want to
I'm
try it
now
now.
going to, yeah.
Yeah, I want to try it. Just making up your own like, lyrics over the top. That would be so funny.
Well, I must admit,
Everyone around you would be like.
I must admit, sometimes I do that a lot, especially with instrumental music, especially mostly in my head. But
Cool.
It sounds like you don't like instrumental music, Jeff.
I love it. I really do love it.
He's missing something.
I find myself singing along to the melodies, and so
Oh yeah.
there was one of the Fuck Button songs. Halfway through it, I found myself singing "Loving You Is Easy Because You're Beautiful" by Minnie Riperton.
Nice.
Amazing.
Ah.
You know, because I was like. It was like,
Quite an acrobatic vocal, isn't it?
yeah,
Very.
exactly. And so it's like, yeah, imagine mine was exactly that acrobatic.
That's the
was gonna say,
beauty of it being in a very lound room. You can just sort of have a go. No one can hear you.
It's true. I think,
That-
I think I did say that to them, and I think they just laughed. They were like, it's really weird because I think I did actually see like Fuck Button's second ever gig.
Oh really?
Yeah, because like they filmed in Bristol. They I mean like there's probably so many artists where I'm looking and I'm going, haha, I saw you play to like 5 people.
I was going to say, if anyone would have seen their second show, it would have been you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even saw Idol's second gig as well.
Oh, did you?
Wow,
Yeah. That was when that
It's
was
like
when that
a-
was really bad.
It's like a pattern.
They're from Bristol as well, right?
Seeing everyone's
Yeah.
second show.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to be honest, there's about 2 or 3 years when I did try and semi-avoid them, but I couldn't because every single place I turned up at, you know, especially for gigs, it'd be like either Idols be on the bill inadvertently, like it's the last minute support, or they'd be working behind the bar.
Everywhere you go.
Pretty much every venue would be like, oh god, it's him. But, you know,
That is kind of cool when you sort of become really intrinsic in a scene, especially when you're in a band and you're making music and you're playing loads of shows and you're working at loads of shows. You're going to see loads of other shows. That's a nice feeling. Yeah.
I mean, like, well, I went to college with their manager. You know,
Did you?
Yeah.
What a small
Because of
world.
like, but both me, I know it's a really small world. Because of like, we both went to access to the Academy of Contemporary Popular Music in Guildford, and we're both being drummers, so we're both in the same group.
Ah, I didn't realise you were a drummer.
Yeah, that's how
Ah.
I got like the rhythm. That's how I learned how to rap.
Yeah.
Is by a rhythmic, by a rhythm.
So, who's your favourite member of Dry Cleaning?
Ooh. All of you.
Yay.
I think you're all my
Diplomat.
favorite. Yeah, I know. To be honest,
Diplomat.
well, yeah, you know. But I mean, I think I spent a year there, but I think I was definitely the loudest drummer there. By quite some distance.
Great.
I ended
Good
up
work.
breaking probably a couple of the electronic drum kits, and then but my favorite lesson was the live performance workshop, because I would always try and upstage everybody else on stage. If it wasn't through my playing ability or inability, it'd be through other things.
Yeah.
I can remember one time.
Still doing that, Jeff. Still doing that.
That's so much. I think it's simple lesson for this percentage.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I remember, like they banned me from ever going on the microphone after doing a particular killer performance of Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name of, because basically I decided I wasn't good enough to do the drums, so I basically decided to do the vocals, of which I let my kind of like my inner Iggy Popness out, shall we say.
Amazing.
apart from I was shaven headed and had like a massive kind of itchy fleece on.
It's all in the details.
Well, yeah, those are great details.
Well, yeah, basically, I remember like nearly knocking myself out on the microphone because I basically kept on headbutting it. So like
very easy to do.
12 times in a row. Or, like,
I was going to say, man, it sounds like you destined to be a singer, singing over all these instrumentals.
I'd like to bring this back to rocking out is a skill, Jeff. Rocking out is a skill.
It's true. But I remember like, it was in a theatre where we had the lesson. And so like I remember like trying to like semi-crowd surf by literally climbing over these seats and trying to get into people's places as much as possible. It's like, I remember just half the band would just end up being completely terrified because especially when I went to the drum kit and almost kicked a hole in the bass drum. It's like they actually locked the doors as well. And so like after because that was the very last performance. Because it'd be like, how are we going to top this? Especially when you got like someone almost passed out with like kind of, he'd pretty much almost cut his forehead open from headbutting the mic. So many times I actually had the wire mesh imprinted.
You're meant to be on the stage.
Yeah, it sounds it.
Yeah, probably was.
Really are.
But yeah, their reaction, the cheese's reactions are like, oh my fuck. And basically, you can see brown smoke like appearing from people's seats. As I terrified all the singers, all the vocal artists, shall we call them?
Thank you.
That's true. Yeah. Oh, craziness.
Indeed.
Yeah, but thanks for giving up your time, guys.
Oh, thank you.
I realised that we've been on here for like an hour and a half.
That's fine. It's been so nice. Yeah. It's been so nice.
Although, to be honest, this is definitely not the longest one I did.
Oh, what? We could keep going. We could keep going.
I think the competition for the longest is a cross between pigs.
That's just because it took you so long to say their name.
Yeah. we were talking for like 2.5 hours.
Oh my goodness!
Wow. Oh no!
But the longest one though was Kate Stables from This Is a Kid.
Oh really?
Right, yeah.
I mean, I love her to bits anyway, and like I've kind of vaguely known her for like nearly 15, 16 years.
So you had a lot of catching up to do.
A little bit, yeah. So we had some, but the thing is though that we had to actually re-record it because the first time,
oh my god!
The first time, some reason. We didn't record properly and it kept on cutting out. And so that was like 3 hours. And then the second one was like 2.5 hours. So if you put them both together, we're like 5 hours in conversation.
So it's a fair whack.
Yeah, man.
She's worked with John as well. He gets around, doesn't he? Yeah.
I mean, like when I first met her would have been when, and like one of her first bands, I think it was. So it would have been Wellbone Polly, which was like her and Rachel Dad, who like, because it's like the three central kind of female characters to like the Bristol old folk scene. Kate Stables, Rachel Dad, and Rosie Plain. Rosie plays in this the kids and stuff like that. And they all kind of play with each other. I think they all used to work on the Bristol Ferry.
Oh really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
But it's like they're always like kind of sharing songs with each other.
Sea shanties.
I'll stop you there. Stop right there.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna go to TikTok video time. Should we start singing, Howard a Barrel of Rum, eh?
We'll
There's 5 of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't want to point out the obvious, but there's 5 of us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to be honest, it's true. We won't get like a 5-part harmony, can we?
Shout out to the Chroma Smugglers.
Yeah. Well, it's like kind of like, it's like, kind of like we can work out 5-part harmonies, create a wall of sound, sort of thing.
Let's do it.
Anyway, guys.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Cheers,
thank you.
Really nice to see you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sending you all much love.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, we'll see you in a venue soon.
Yeah. Look out, yourselves.
Yeah, you too, dude.
Take care.
Bye.